Hello and welcome everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the members for joining us in today's webinar.
Recording in progress.
My name is C.A. Shubhamgar and I am working with Deloitte Risk Advisory Practice as an Assistant Manager in Risk Management, Internal Control and Process Transformation domain. Before turning towards our first presenter, I would like to invite C.A. Sonia Arora ji, Chairman of Jalandhar Branch of NIRC of ICAI, for opening remarks. Over to you, Sonia ji. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during our presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during our presentation and we will have some time for questions at the end. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to CA Manish Bakshi ji, who is the practicing chartered accountant and have over 31 years of diversified experience in the field of audit and assurance, entity and transactional level structuring advisory, forensic audit, arbitration and expert witness in litigation services. He is also currently a co-opted member of Internal Audit Standard Board of ICAI and panel faculty member of IASB of ICAI for certification courses on concurrent audit of banks. He is also associated with ICAI not only as a chairman of Baroda branch, but also as a regional council member in 2004 to 2007. So our first session is on the topic emerging technologies, risk, and the internal auditors focus. Over to you, CA Manish Bakshi ji.
Thank you very much, Subham. I would not thank IASB because as Subham has given my introduction, all of you by now have come to know that I am the part of the host. I am the part of the organizer, being an co-opted member this year by the IASB of ICAI. So rather, instead of thanking IASB for inviting me, I would like to welcome the participants across the country. I am told more than 1,000 participants have registered and almost have joined. So would like to convey heartfelt welcome to all the participants on this knowledge enriching session. IASB is absolutely clear on its agenda and enabling the internal auditors, the professionals, to strengthen their core competency on the area of internal audit. And with this particular objective, the series of these programs are being organized by IASB. And so once again, I would like to welcome all of you. Thank you very much, Subham, for the introduction. I would also like to recognize the presence of a co-speaker and a very senior professional, Rajiv Puri. Another co-speaker, Sanket is going to join short while. So I would like to recognize the presence of Rajiv ji also at this juncture, and the Sonia Madam, Chairman of Jalandhar branch in absentia. So the topic given to me is absolutely relevant. Though it is on the discussion table since almost more than a couple of years, that emerging technologies vis-a-vis the internal audit function, emerging technologies vis-a-vis the risk of that technology, which internal auditor has to understand and consider while designing their audit program, audit process, their test check basis, substantive check basis, and to ultimately evaluate the controls in existence at the entity level. And the internal auditor also is required to test the process of the particular transaction which is being taken place. Though it's not the role and responsibility of the internal auditor, but still it is expected that internal auditor has to check the existence of control with respect to its any impact on the financial statement, though it's not a responsibility of internal auditor. It is expected. That's what I would like to tell you. At this juncture, I would also like to request Rajiv ji, who is from the industry. Yes, sir, whenever you are going to take up your session, may I request you on behalf of the practicing chartered accountants, practicing units, and those who are into the other side of you, like you are in the industry and we are on the other side as an internal auditor of your entity. May I also request you to please share with us the expectation, the changing role and responsibility of the internal auditor, and the expectation of the industry, expectation of the user of our services, expectation of management from the internal auditor, because that is more relevant and important for the internal audit professionals, those who are handling this, maybe in-house, maybe the external agency, to enable. That is the theme of the the particular webinar. The theme is to enable the internal auditors. So I request you to please take up that particular also, because with respect to the particular role and responsibility of auditor, and with respect to emerging technologies, risk, and the focus which internal auditor is expected to be designed in their audit process in your talk.
Sure, sir. I will try my best to address your points.
So with this particular opening remark, I would also like to now that this is the topic given to me: emerging technologies, risk, and auditors focus. Screen is okay, Subham?
Yes, sir.
Great. So emerging technologies. We are going to talk this, and I am going to talk to you up to 7 o'clock time given to me in 3 phases: emerging technologies, risk, inherent risk, which internal audit function per se carries, but with respect to the emerging technologies, the risk which internal auditor carries today and tomorrow. And the last part I am going to cover on the auditor's focus. That due to the emerging technology and the risk which the entire the entity carries with respect to the recording of transaction, with respect to its correctness with respect to transaction, and with respect to its effect on the financial statement, auditors focus. Where we are focused today and where we need to focus tomorrow with respect to emerging technologies. So as you all are aware, the theme of the entire seminar is the technology as enabler of internal auditor. This is what I wanted to again talk to the participants, that technology, please consider technology as enabler of internal audit professional per se. Because Rajiv ji, I am 55 is my personal age, and this is my 32nd year of practice. So we may sometime, person like me, I'm in the 4th generation, the 2nd generation, would feel like that, abhi kya karenge ye technology? This is not my cup of tea. I'll not be able to cope up with this technological change. I'm comfortable with my old techniques and the process of the audit and evaluating the risk, which is my core competency, and then I will give the observations to the management, and management will take care about the further process of my observations. That is what many of us, unfortunately, let me tell you bluntly, the chartered accountants having that mindset. Kabhi main kya kar sakta hu usme? Abhi ye isme main kya technology sikhunga? Abhi these new technologies are coming day in and day out. And why I should learn this technology, why I should update myself on this technology. So friend, my only simple request to each and every one, the participants, those who are listening to me, that whatever is the age that we are, it is not at all difficult. And technology do not consider technology as your threat. It's not threat. It's an opportunity. If you do your SWOT analysis, then in the SWOT analysis, sometimes our mind is not set as a 2G chartered accountant. 4th generation chartered accountant, those who are young and join this particular today's session, would, yes, are ready to adopt the changes, ready to accept the changes, ready to cope up with the changes of the technology with respect to the internal audit function. And yes, they are able to use this emerging technology to enable the internal audit responsibility and the functions of the internal audit. So my request to all of us, that those who are like me, 2nd generation chartered accountant, do not consider technology as a threat. Do not consider technology as a challenge. Yes, it is a challenge. But yes, by this kind of seminar, by a focused approach, this technology, the changing technology, the emerging technologies can be an enabler to us, to internal auditors, to chartered accountants. So thank you, Jalandhar Branch, to hosting this seminar. So let's have a quick understanding and discussion on the emerging technologies. Emerging technologies, as I told you, emerging technologies, please understand, it also brings benefit. Because I'll take 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to make all of us understand that technology never, ever, and always brings threats, brings the difficult task. Technology, to my personal view, and which everybody would agree, that it brings great benefit to we as chartered accountants. I'll just give you, again, 2G chartered accountants like me, then just go back to the 25, 30 years of your career and just try to see that a day when a manual trial balance used to be prepared. Rajiv ji, manual trial means आप industry में हम बनाते थे, आप भी बनाते थे. And to be very frank with you, when manual trial balance used to get tally, my dear friends, the 4th generation chartered accountant, you are not aware, I'm not exaggerating, but when trial balance, manual trial balance used to get tally, we used to celebrate. We used to distribute sweet. We used to distribute pendas and jalebis in the industry, in the factories. Those were the days. So try to understand where we are today, where we are into the, forget about the SAP and blockchain, in the environment of tally. Also, the days of the trial balance tally, wo word to chala gaya. So, my dear friends, the technology, new technology, emerging technologies have brought great benefit to us. Our time, efforts, and everything, those who were being involved in getting trial balance tally has been done away with since last 20 years, 15 years, 20 years, tally ke baad. And then comes to the SAP and then comes to blockchain. We'll see how blockchain works. SAP, many of us, almost every one of us are conversant with SAP. That how SAP wonderfully working and how SAP can be of our benefit. How SAP can be of our use as an internal audit head in the industry or as an internal auditor, external agency to perform my duty as an internal auditor of the industry. So my point is the emerging technologies have brought with it a lot of benefits. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. AI is changing the way of business, the way in which business is being done, the way in which the transactions takes place, the way in which decisions are being taken. The AI has absolutely changed the businesses, the role and responsibility of management. When AI has changed the entire business environment, the entire role and responsibility of the management, entire role and responsibility of the audit committee, entire role and responsibility of the board of directors, then who I am, who we are. It has also changed our role and responsibility as an internal auditor. But that's what we wanted to understand today. Now this is the high time that we have to understand that it has changed the entire business environment. It has changed the entire process of recording the transaction. It has changed the entire process of controls and testing. And so I, as an internal auditor, on the any side of the, that professional, either in the industry or in the practice, the time, the manual process has already reduced to a great extent. Yes, but at the same time, as you all fully aware, which you all have in mind, it also carries substantial risk. So emerging technologies have brought a number of benefits, and simultaneously, it has also brought with it substantial risk. That is what we are going to discuss today. That these emerging technologies, if being properly understood, if being properly taken care of by the internal auditor, then it will be at our benefit. Like debates are going on that smartphone are boon or curse. Like when we were in school, the debates were going on. Television is a boon or a curse. So these days, these debates and discussions are going on in management schools. That technology is a boon or a curse. This is going on. It will go on. I am not into that debate. But my point is that yes, it can be a boon if it is properly taken care of. It can be of your tremendous advantage. It can be your right and left hand assistant. It can be your team leader in your vertical of the internal audit team. It can be a partner of your vertical audit team if that particular technology is being properly taken care of, properly being understood, and properly being implemented by we as the internal audit professionals. The point here is, my dear friend, that industries have geared up. The businesses have geared up. The India incorporates have geared up. And India incorporates have already started using AI for various functions in the industries. Many industries have started using AI, and few have already started testing and parallel run of blockchain. With Subham and Rajiv ji will confirm later on in their talk that this is the era, this is the time in which we are living. This is the changing era of the professionals, of the profession. And if I will be able to understand this emerging technology and its nitty-gritty to a very small extent, I am not telling you to just understand the technology like computers engineers understand. But let me tell you, in the company like TCS, Tata Consultancy, in each and every project of theirs, in the project team, one full-time chartered accountant is also there. This is a fact of the case. Meaning thereby, in development of any AI tool, yes, the role of the chartered accountant is there. Technology is there in front of us. Now, my big question to everyone is there. Industries have geared up. Industries have started implementing this AI to a great extent and blockchain to some extent. Am I ready? As a professional, as a chartered accountant in general, and as an internal auditor in particular, am I ready? If answer is yes, then emerging technology is benefit to you, when going to be at your benefit, going to be your assistant, right and left hand. And if not, answer is no. If I'm not ready, then yes, it is going to carry a great risk. I'll tell you. I'll come to that also later. And then leave it to you. Then you have to face any of the consequences for not understanding this emerging technology, not putting it to your support, and then you will be carrying a great risk. Then Institute of Chartered Accountants of India cannot do anything. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is also ready. IASB is also fully aware about how the industries are going on, how the technologies are being taking shape differently in the industries. And that is why the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India proactively And the IASB in particular proactively is organizing this kind of seminar to give you an opportunity to understand. In this kind of seminar, you will get the bullet point, you will understand. And then you just please form a small study groups and then understand what is AI, and then go and attend the full course on blockchain. We'll see how blockchain is going to change the entire environment of recording the transactions. So this is what is my, the emerging technology. Because if I am able to today reach to your mind and heart to some extent, that emerging technology is not a threat to me. Emerging technology to me is a benefit. Then my 50% job is done. So let's understand what are the emerging technologies with respect to only limited to a chartered accountants, with limited to the internal audit functions. My dear friends, the days have gone when A was for audit, when B for bank audit, C for company audit. Meaning thereby the we chartered accountants predominantly, traditionally are auditors. And they stand for direct tax. So we chartered accountants are generally being just considered as an auditor and a tax consultant. That's all. My dear friends, that role and responsibility of chartered accountant is no more expected from the industry. Rajiv ji batayenge humko what is their expectation from chartered accountants. Artificial intelligence, IoT, Internet of Things, 27 billion devices are connected by 2021. That is not it is a survey. So when 27 billion connected devices are there today in 2021, somewhere, somehow, it is affecting industry in which I am the internal auditor, in which I am performing the internal auditor's job. And so I need to understand how this artificial intelligence works, how machine works, how it is of your help, and how it is helping the management to take the decision which otherwise was left to the human minds. That's the artificial intelligence. Blockchain, my dear friends, is going to change the entire profession of the statutory audit and internal audit, maybe by 2026, 2027, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, which, Subham from Deloitte can give his viewpoint and the fact of the case and their analysis, and Rajiv ji, their analysis and understanding. That blockchain, my dear friends, technologies have changed and rather changing every day. Let me tell you, earlier, technologies used to change every decade. I am talking about 70s. I am talking about 80s. The 90s started. Then technology started changing every 5 years. Then millennial era started. And in millennial era, 2000, onward, technologies have started changing every couple of years. And now technology is changing every month and every day rather. This is the environment. And we are the professors. We chartered accountants can absolutely cope up with this emerging technologies, and we can absolutely perform the role and responsibility as an internal auditor to the expectation of the industry, to the expectation of the regulators, provided we understand this new ABCD of the technology ABCD of the chartered accountants profession, which is affecting to chartered accountant profession. But still, if my mindset is A for audit, B for bank audit, C for company audit, D for the direct tax, then again, we need to introspect. We need to understand today, because otherwise it will be too late. So cybersecurity is the buzzword in the industry. Forget about industry. As an auditor, let me tell you, whether we have a proper cybersecurity in our offices, then multinational company or Rajiv ji, before giving his audit of his company to us, would like to test, would like to check what kind of cyber security is there in my office. I'm designated partner of Talati and Talati LLP. So Rajiv ji would check. No, absolutely. Saket Kanodia would like to check their internal audit external internal audit agency, chartered accountant firm, the cyber security in place at their offices. Because data is everything. मैं बताऊंगा, मैं बता रहा हूं या और कोई बता रहा है तो हमको समझ में नहीं आया था. बट जब मुकेश अंबानी ने बता दिया before a couple of months, before 3 months, that data is the future. Now we have started realizing slowly that yes, data is the future. So before giving audit of any corporates, the corporates would like to understand an NDA are being signed about the cyber security, the security of their data. And so today is not the topic of cyber security, but I would like to touch upon the subject that, my dear friend, before as a internal auditor, we have to understand the cyber security in place, which ISA qualified professionals would understand me very fast and better than anyone else. It's a separate ISA audit, separate system information system audit, which used to be carried out by banks in general and now many industries in particular. But the point here is that is not my point. My point is, we as an internal auditor, do we have a proper cyber security in my place about the information technology, hardware and software which I am using in my office? If I will be able to convince the Indian incorporate and the MNCs, then only I will be able to continue my audit of those particular entity in this changing technology environment, or otherwise I will have to, they will say bye-bye, Tata, thank you. You did good job with us for 10 years, 15 years. You have served with us. It was really good job you did, Mr. Bakshi, Talati and Talati. But now we are moving to some other firm because there is no proper cyber security in your office. These days are not far away. Let me tell you, this is the role and responsibility of the emerging. This is the threat. This is the risk which emerging technologies are carrying. But if being understand, if we are going to have the proper cyber security, the controls in our offices, then absolutely no problem. And D stands for data analytics. D is not for directors, which is not the subject of my discussion. I cannot encroach in the domain area of Rajiv ji. But data analytics is absolutely playing a very important role, which Rajiv ji will explain to us, will share his knowledge, will share his experiences that how data analytics can be of a use to the internal audit function. So my point here is, nothing is difficult, because मैंने पहले बताया आपको कि भाई there is it is not a threat, it's an opportunity. And then immediately I told about A, B, C, D. So many of us are confused. It is difficult. नहीं कर सकते हम लोग. ये artificial intelligence and IoT and blockchain and आप तो हमको डरा रहे हो. हम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन दूसरी तुरंत आप बता रहे हो कि ये तो ऐसा है. So my dear friend, nothing is impossible. Only thing is we have to change our vision from IA to AI. Internal audit to artificial intelligence, nothing else. IA, AI. Just paradigm shift from this to that. And then it is very easy. We have to look beyond. Now the internal auditors are expected by the user of our services, by the industries, to look beyond the transactions. The days have gone when internal auditors are used to perform the internal audit as a financial transaction audit perspective only. And that was my job before 20 years. And that was the expectation of my industry also. Okay, internal audit, you just do the transaction audit, verify this, the vouchers and verification, and my head of accounts are properly being entered into net. These are, the bank is reconciled, this, that, my job is done. That was the role and responsibility of chartered accountant before 20 years. But now, the chartered accountants are expected to look beyond the transaction. Transaction audit, yes, is a part and parcel of the internal audit. But that's not all about internal audit. It's only a small, maybe 25% of the audit program in our offices. Yes, it is playing 25% role, transaction audit and financial audit, and, verification of vouchers and some supporting documents and all this thing. But otherwise, the role and responsibility of the internal auditor is to ensure that what artificial intelligence is in place, what control mechanisms are in place, how the transactions are being processed in that SAP, and what controls that SAP has. And that is what is the system audit is the role. The next phase of the next part of my role and responsibility of auditor, internal auditor. And I'm expected to do and verify the statutory compliances. Look beyond the vouchers. Vouchers se abhi kuch nahi hone wala. My third phase of the audit goes today into the all statutory compliances. My dear friends, I am not talking about statutory compliance, role and responsibility of internal auditor from the filing of TDS return, income tax return, and the GST returns. There are a number of statutes applicable to the industry. A Factories Act is applicable to the industries. A Boiler Act is applicable to industries. Chemical industries, the Fertilizer and Chemical Hazards Act is applicable to industries particularly. So on and so forth. So my next phase of the internal auditors today in my audit plan and program is statutory compliances. If very small example I am giving you, in my at our auditor's place, there is a lift. It's a 3-story, 4-story building, factory and all, and there is a lift. My dear friends, lift also has to have the permission, valid permission of the local authority. And that lift permission has been expired on 31st of the May 2021 when you are carrying out the audit of Q1. My dear friend, it has to be audit observation of internal auditor that lift which is being operating at the factory premises office, our license is not renewed by the local authority. So meaning thereby, look beyond. And for all these things, now the AI is at your place. Technology is at your place. And so you can, with the use of technology, you can design the complete overall checklist of the statutes applicable and its compliances. That is what is the role and responsibility of the internal auditor. Change our vision. We will change our vision from internal audit to AI. And we will think out of the box. Thoda out of the box think karenge. And then definitely we will be able to perform our job. So mera point wo hai, just 1 degree shift, just 1 degree extra effort by internal auditor, then we can definitely understand the AI and put AI to our use, technology to our use, and then we can perform the even better job as an internal auditor. So let's understand what is artificial intelligence, technology, emerging technology. My dear friends, artificial intelligence is nothing but computer-aided, one more technique, is a technology, enables computer to perform the decision-making task, which otherwise till today was left to the human being. It's an extended branch of the computer science. So many of you might think that it's an extended branch of computer science. So what chartered accountant has to do? And that's what I told you, that in any of the program which TCS are making today, one chartered accountant is there in that team. Because chartered accountant has to taste the control, has to taste the flow of the transaction, and whether there is an impact of that financial impact of any such transaction on the financial statements or not. When I have put AI to at my factory in the stores department, whether AI functions properly with respect to decision making of the placing an order of that inventory, raw material. So I have to understand that particular AI at place, technology at place, and then a decision being taken by technology also can make mistake. But then my audit program should be now designed in such a way that I should be able to check whether that decision taken by that computer-aided technique, computer-enabled techniques about the placing of an order is correct or not. These tasks are previously being left to human being. It's a machine-based learning. AI is nothing but machine-based learning. Once the program is fit, when the program is set, and there also internal audit can play a very important role. When SAP, you would agree with me, when SAP was implemented at your client's place, whether you were called for or not in one or two discussions, whether you have been called to test the some control mechanism related to finance department or not, answer is yes. So that's what the role of the internal auditor is very, very important, because we are part and parcel of management. So it is machine-based learning. Progressively, it becomes better. Yes, initially, again, I'm telling you, initially, any one of us may think it's a very tedious job. ये करने में बहुत time लगेगा. मुझे पहले तो technology सीखनी पड़ेगी. First of all, I have to understand AI, and then I can. But yes, progressively, it becomes better at the analysis and decision making like human. Otherwise, human being used to take decision whether order is to place or not, whether this decision is to be taken or not. But then, because of that particular artificial intelligence, the program, technology-based program is in place at the industry, decisions are being taken by the machine. So AI is what? Is basis of AI is nothing but big data and algorithm. It's a big data. The techniques of AI is what? Machine learning, the data mining. That is what is my, basically the AI is based. AI is not the today's topic, but just I'm giving you bullet point. It's create the expert system. Artificial intelligence, through artificial intelligence, it create the expert system. Expert system is being created to implement human intelligence in the machine, so that a machine can take the decisions. That is how the artificial intelligence works. I'll give you one small example of the IoT. IoT ki humne baat ki, Internet of Things. How it works and how it's going to work. Working chartered accountant ladies are there with us. Even Aarti Madam, the IASB board head and team member, working lady. How the refrigerator are going to work tomorrow? In tomorrow's scenario, smart refrigerator. A program has only been set into that my refrigerator, and then when my the cheese cubes are less than that particular quantity, my smart refrigerator will place the order to the DMart or Big Bazaar or your local supplier, whoever he may be, or that agency may be. Orders will be placed, and while you're during your lunchtime, being a working lady chartered accountant, during your lunchtime, when you will be checking up your mobile, you must have got the message from the Big Bazaar that you have to make the payment of 2,223 for this particular order. Who has placed the order? You are surprised? No, it is being placed by your smart refrigerator, which is based off AI and IoT, Internet of Things. And then Aarti Madam, during the lunchtime, will see and make the payment. And before she reaches home, all the things must have been delivered at her place, so she can prepare the pav bhaji for the family member. That's how things are going to move. Smart. Why I am giving you household example, we can understand very easily. And the same way things are going, rather happening in some of the industries today and many industries tomorrow. Through artificial intelligence and IoT, the entire material management department will be on IoT. That's what my point. Then you can understand the artificial intelligence and the IoT better than theoretical understanding. And then let's understand something about the blockchain. Blockchain is nothing but the concept of recording asset and transactions, and it's a record maintenance which completes the ledger of debit and credit of all digital transactions. Digital transactions are being recorded in that particular block, and the entire member of that particular chain can see that particular transaction, can access those transactions. Blockchain, the first block has to be created. It's a Genesis block. First block is Genesis block. And then by solving the mathematical puzzle, you can create the second, the next, the block. and the blocks are being added. Blockchain. It is immutable. It is decentralized process, having global reach. It's a consensus-based, secured, decentralized, maybe public or private database. It's a private database. Let's understand. And in private database, the entire transaction in your private database of your particular supplier and of your particular, customers are being recorded. All digital transactions are being recorded in this blockchain. And it stores this information, which is immutable peer-to-peer network. The meaning thereby, even a developer of that block can not destroy that block. This is the beauty, this is the strength of the blockchain. And that is why everybody is now talking about blockchain. Bit costly in India, some industry have started testing, implementing. But as I told you, 5 years down the line, this is going to change the entire face of the internal and statutory audit function, my dear friends. Let's understand. If today we'll not understand, tomorrow we'll be out of this auditing profession. Any change, tempered block is easily detectable. कोई temper करेगा तो block को आप easily वो block आप उसको access कर सकते हो. आप उसको log access कर सकते हो. You can come to know. So this is how the cyber security, data analyst is going to be discussed by Rajiv Puri. So just understand the artificial intelligence. Let me tell you, my dear friends, on blockchain, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India have started the executive course of 4 or 5 full days executive course on blockchain. How many of us are aware? Forget about the question, how many of us have attended so far? But how many of us are aware? This is the era in which Institute is ready to take up the challenges. But Institute means who? We, members. Are we ready? Are we ready to understand the concept of the artificial intelligence, concept of blockchain, which is going to change the entire process of the auditing? We'll come to that. So next part is risk. अभी तक हम शायद कंफ्यूजन में है या नहीं समझ पाए कि नहीं करना है मुझे इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजी से मुझे क्या लेना है. Already this is my 32nd year of practice. अभी 10-15 साल और काम करेंगे थोड़ा बहुत. Why I should go for it? That's what, my dear friends, that fact of the case I am narrating in front of you. That internal auditors are not well versed with the emerging technology, and that is the risk. That itself is a risk. We are not well versed, or we don't want to be well versed. That's the risk itself. CAs and internal auditors on the other side are aware. After this kind of seminar attending, at least I am aware about emerging technology, but not ready to getting equipped and updated. Reason being, old theory of egg and chicken. That's what my view. Anybody can share their views at the end. In a question answer, you can share your views also. Send your views also, which Subham will analyze, read, and share with us, or can ask the questions. That's how we can all come to an end of this session at the end with something take home for everyone. That it's a whole theory, egg or chicken. What is there in my mind as an Indian chartered accountant practicing unit is, I am being appointed as an internal auditor of big unit where there is AI, I will learn AI. Let me get the assignment of the multinational company, then I will understand what is blockchain. Let me have the assignment of the multinational company, then I will have cyber security in my office, in my place. That is what is the unfortunate mindset of ours, the Indian chartered accountant. Egg or chicken, which comes first, egg or chicken? Let client would come, let work would flow, then I will update myself. Then I will hire, if I don't want to update, I will hire experts. No, my dear friends. My simple request to everyone is, today, if you are into this mindset, then please go through my next line. You are carrying a risk. of gross negligence charged by the regulators or even by ICAI. That's what my simple request to everyone, my dear friend. Emerging technologies are carrying a risk if not being properly understood, not being implemented. My audit process is not being designed accordingly to shoot with the emerging technologies which are there at place of my client whom I am auditing. Then my dear friend, leave it to your luck. Only God can save us from the charge of tomorrow's charge of the gross negligence by the regulators and even by ICAI, disciplinary mechanism. That point of time, I cannot say, no, we just got this audit. It's the first year of our audit, and we just implemented this particular cybersecurity and all this place. And I just attended this blockchain seminar last week only of the institute. So मुझे blockchain का तब 2 महीने पहले पता नहीं था, मैंने audit तो last quarter का किया है, blah 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 blah. This kind of argument are not going to be sustained before the regulators, before the CBI, before the EOW, before the SFIO, and even before the ICAI disciplinary committee. So, my dear friends, we cannot run away. We cannot go away. We cannot afford not to understand this emerging technology. And that is why again and again, till the time available to me, I'll try to impress upon you that emerging technologies have brought so many advantages. But having not understood that, do not want to be well versed with it, do not want to get equipped with us, I am carrying a great risk. And then again, there is going to be expectation gap. I am carrying a risk of expectation gap. राजीव जी को मैंने रिक्वेस्ट इसलिए किया है कि मुझे ये पर्सपेक्टिव से आप इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से बताओ कि हमको बताओ सबको कि what are the expectation gap today in which the internal audit functions are being performed. Yeah, that's what expectation gap from Indian incorporates, because India incorporates are expecting chartered accountant in general and internal audit in specific to come out with a specific observation on their system, on the specific observation on recording of digital transactions, on the revenue recognition, on the specific observation on inventory level, which is being maintained through the artificial intelligence. They want their your observations as an internal auditor on cyber security in place, whether there is a threat on their particular machines, which are undertaking the transactions, and transactions are being processed by that machine, that program, that system. This is what is expectation. Sorry, I have again started. I've asked the question and I have started just sharing my views. But Rajiv ji will tell us on this expectation gap on the from the Indian incorporates. So this is what what I just see this slide. Risk from emerging technologies. Risk from, and this is risk of and by emerging technologies. Having understood that yes, emerging technologies are at my benefit, still it carries risk. So now we are in second set. Yes, I will update myself. I have understood. I am not into now egg and chicken. I will have cyber security in my place. So it doesn't mean that after after implementing all these things, you are well versed, you are aware about, you are getting equipped, you are hiring a person of that particular domain, and you are wanting to just have in place this cyber security and the AI tools and IoT tools in your office. So there will be no charge of gross negligence. There will be no regulators charge. There will be no expectation gap. Don't misunderstand me. It will be reduced. You are going to mitigate your own risk to a great extent. But yes, there are risks of and by emerging technologies. Emerging technologies are risk to hai, because the core function of the internal audit function is the risk assessment. My core function is the understanding the control functions. Those are being lost. because now machines are performing that job. These are being diluted. My core competency are being diluted. But having understood this AI, having understood the blockchain properly, having understood the data analytics, which is not my subject, we are having two experts on that. So having understood data analytics, how data analytics can be of my help, my basic function which I used to do personally, assessing the risk of the entity, assessing the control of the entity, are absolutely lost or diluted. But yes, on the other hand, I have to assess those particular risks of the technology which are in place. Technology which is processing my transaction. Internal auditor is not able to identify the risk. Reliance is on system. I am, and the industry and the entity per se is relied on the systems, on the programs, which are either inaccurately processing data, because there is some programming error, there is some bug in the program, and that is why there is inaccurate processing of the correct data. Or otherwise, because of some programming error, my machine is processing inaccurate data itself, or both. We do not know. As an internal auditor, I am expected to do this job. And for that, I have to understand this artificial intelligence. What is data analytics? How data analytics can be of my use? How data mining can be done? And then how data analysis can be done? That's what we are going to see in the next two sessions. But my point is, having understood this and having attended this blockchain 4-day seminar, you are not out of the risk. Still risk is there. And that point of time, we'll see that how my focus should be. There is unauthorized access to data. There is unauthorized changes in the data being done at the client place. There is unauthorized access to system, unauthorized access to the programs are in place, are working, which are processing my data. So there can be a number of possibilities. Unauthorized access, unauthorized changes. Somebody is doing unauthorized changes. Somebody is doing unauthorized changes in the systems and programs. So there could be this kind of any such possibilities. So it is a risk of that technology. Technology has the risk to have. Any smart person with a negative mind can crack that particular system password and can do the alteration. But having understood the exceptional report of any of the program has a system of exceptional report. But having known, मुझे पता होना चाहिए ना कि एक्सेप्शनल रिपोर्ट निकलता है, पता है तब मैं एक्सेप्शनल रिपोर्ट को रिव्यू करूंगा ना, तब मैं एक्सेप्शनल रिपोर्ट रिव्यू करेगा, देन तो आपका आर्टिकल भी पकड़ पाएगा कि कहां पर अनऑथराइज एक्सेस हो रहा है, कहां पर आफ्टर द डे एंड किसी ने प्रोसेस किया है इन पर्टिकुलर बैंक फॉर एग्जांपल, कहां पर मेरा मास्टर डेटा को अल्टर किया है किसी ने in a data center. In bank data center, now all the processing of the interest and all these charges are being done from the data center, from the head office. No branch has to do anything. Any change in the interest rate, data center is making the alteration in the master, and across the India, across this thing, interest change is going to take care by that particular all the machines across the branches of the bank. But whether those change in the master is authorized, who knows? When you come to know, when management can come to know, when you come to know, next day the police will come to you. That, my dear friend, you are the concurrent auditor of this particular bank, and since last 2 months this is being done. What are you doing? Data center का आपके पास audit है. You are the concurrent auditor of data audit. Data center of the bank. They are also started out giving outsourcing of the data center audit. So this is what the scenario. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने सब समझ लिया, implement कर लिया तो risk नहीं है. Risk of the system is always there. But we have to convert the challenges into opportunities. So that's what I told. Now let's focus on the internal auditors focus. In last 10 minutes I'll just exceed 5 more minutes with the permission of Subham and Rajiv ji. I'll end at 7:05, right? If I'm permitted. So that I can end up with the third part of the talk today on internal auditors focus. Opportunities emerging kya hai? I could able to just give a bullet point. What are the risks I'm carrying? And on both the parts, and then what focus I should have? Because otherwise I will not, if I'll not give you solution, I cannot keep you all in the dark and they just, confusion. So I'm just giving you a solution, which I have. Internal auditors should gain the holistic understanding of emerging technologies. You should have holistic understanding. मैंने तो अभी आपको जो दिया है वो बुलेट पॉइंट अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिया है. राजीव जी देने वाले हैं वो भी बुलेट पॉइंट अंडरस्टैंडिंग देने वाले हैं और साकेत भी बुलेट पॉइंट अंडरस्टैंडिंग देने वाले हैं. हम लोग आपको ये 3 घंटे में डोंट मिसअंडरस्टैंड कि आपको हम पूरा होलिस्टिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजी देने वाले हैं. So you should have the holistic understanding of the emerging technology. There your focus should be from today, 9 o'clock onwards, if I'm not exaggerating. If you wanted to not to have any charge of gross negligence on you tomorrow from any regulators, and if you wanted to bridge the expectation gap of the industries. IAS should effectively evaluate the management process for initiating. That's what I am talking to you since last almost 50 minutes. That we should effectively evaluate the process. जो भी आपका प्रोग्राम है, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इन प्लेस है, ब्लॉकचेन प्लेस में है आपकी इंडस्ट्री में, तो वहां पर जो प्रोसेस है, इनिशिएटिंग, प्रोसेसिंग एंड रिकॉर्डिंग द ट्रांजैक्शन, दैट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इफेक्टिवली, यू हैव टू इवैल्यूएट. दैट इज व्हाट इज रोल. अभी तक वो मेरा रोल नहीं था, वो मेरे ऑडिट प्रोसेस में नहीं था, बट अभी मुझे ऑडिट के टेस्ट अप्लाई करने के पहले माय रोल एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, माय फोकस शुड बी ऑन द evaluating effectively the process of initiating, processing, and recording those transactions. As I have told you, in blockchain, all digital transactions are being processed accordingly. And then I have to decide the appropriate audit procedure. I cannot go ahead and continue with my old audit process, which I am carrying out since last 10 years for this industry. So far, so good. But now it's not. Internal auditors shift my focus from traditional procedure of substantive check to artificial intelligence based source of the audit evidence. कल मुझे मेरा ग्रॉस नेग्लिजेंस का चार्ज प्रूव करने के लिए मुझे ऑडिट का टेस्ट अप्लाई करना पड़ता है. जनरली आई एम गोइंग ऑन टेस्ट चेक बेसिस. Everybody knows now, all regulators are aware कि I am doing my test check. But test check का आपने क्या systematic and this scientific approach आपने टेस्ट चेक का किया, वो तो आपका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है. then you can argue to the regulators, then you can argue to management कि ये ट्रांजैक्शन क्यों छूट गया है, क्योंकि we have considered this. Fine, it's a particularly the a test check. But my dear friends, we are also expected since last 10-15 years, 2 decades, not only to go for the test check as far as internal audit function is concerned, but in the key area of operations. Rajiv ji, if I am not mistaken, key areas of operation, I am expected to do a substantive test also. That is what I am doing so far. So good, so far so appreciated. And I am able to come out with a value-added observations for the management to take decisions. But it is also not all. Now there is an artificial intelligence in place. So I have to shift my traditional process of substantive test to the artificial intelligence based source of audit evidence. मुझे audit evidence वहां तक gather करने हैं and मुझे रखने हैं. And that is why I have to understand this entire the emerging technologies. IA should consider the risk resulting from this implementing of the emerging technologies. Emerging technologies, as I have told you, decade, 5 years, 2 years, and now every day technology is changing. At your client place, every day technology is changing and some new technologies are being in place. Last year आपका ऑडिट अच्छा किया आपने, last quarter का ऑडिट अच्छा किया आपने as an internal auditor. It doesn't mean the same process, same audit techniques, same audit methodology, same audit controls, testing and everything you can carry out. Because in last quarter, my dear friends, some new technology have been in place at your client place about the recording of the digital transactions of the receipts of the various POUs at various retail locations. Now I have the the POUs. तो मुझे पास वो PO है, तो मैं वहां से ट्रांजेक्शन मेरे होते हैं. वो लास्ट में कहीं मैंने सब जगह भी इम्प्लीमेंट कर दी है. पहले वहां हर एक लोकेशन पे either cash and check were collected and deposited. Now those days are gone, and I've implemented those. So emerging technologies, I have to understand, and then I have to tailor my audit process for that client accordingly. So my point here is my audit, inter-audit function is a tailor-made, should be tailor-made. This is what I have to focus now. And that also changes from industry to industry, client to client, and more importantly, my dear friends, for a same client, quarter to quarter. That's what my point. IS would consider whether a specialized skills are necessary to determine emerging technologies, to assess the risk, to understand the operating effectiveness of the controls. Because I am chartered accountant. मैंने अब बहुत अच्छी तरह ये सब 10 सेशन अटेंड कर लिए, ब्लॉकचेन का मैंने एग्जीक्यूटिव कोर्स भी अटेंड कर लिया, but still if I am appointed as an auditor of data center of any of the bank, I am not fully equipped. Let me tell you. And so that point of time, I have to consider whether a specialized risk is required. I have to have a specialized a chartered accountant with added qualification of information system audit with 10 years of experience as my team leader. I have to have the computer science expert engineers in my team to assist in my risk management fast, to understanding that operating effectiveness of the control. Otherwise, मैंने वही बताया कि कहीं पर कोई एक मास्टर में चेंज कर देगा, it is going to affect the entire financial statement of that particular entity to a great extent. Or then management will come to know, and then some regulators will come to know, and chartered accountants, inter-audit will come to know. A PMC bank, classic example, PMC bank. And unfortunately, 3 of our colleagues, actually for no fault of them, they have to be behind the bar. PMC bank, just recent 2019 or 20, early 20 episode, fact of the case. No, that's what. They fail to check effectiveness of the controls in that PMC bank. And so my 3 chartered accountants have to be behind the bar, fact of the case. I'm not threatening here to threaten you. I'm here to give you a ground reality. So that's what is happening now. IA has to shift from traditional waterfall development to more agile development framework. This is what is my role and responsibility, my dear friends. My shift is to connect the devices. I told you 27 billion devices are connected through internet, and their digital transactions where finance is affecting, where quantity is affecting, are being recorded in my entity level and then transaction level recording. And I am auditing that particular entity as far as the transactions of that particular sales or procurement purchase is concerned, or receipts is concerned. As I told you earlier, somewhere, somehow, that is affected. IA focus should be from manual controls to automated controls. This is where I have to shift my focus. IA should consider payment processing tool, which we have discussed, by credit card, mobile devices at detailed locations, and then design the audit process of receipts and bank reconciliation. वो bank reconciliation जिसको भी SAP का implementation का experience है, my dear friend, you agree with me and you have also experience. जब SAP implement हुआ हमारे client के वहाँ, तो पहले 2 quarter, 3 quarter तक bank reconciliation were out. In some number of outstanding entries were there. Why? Because those computer science experts, engineers, have not been properly given the understanding of the bank transactions and the reconciliation and mapping, and that's why there were issues. And then slowly and gradually, but still, it is a ground reality, fact of the case. मेरा bank reconciliation per se in my SAP, I used to check bank reconciliation, tick. Oh, it is out by crores of rupees. IA should focus on how AI, artificial intelligence, affect the entity level flow of transactions and generating reports of analytics used by management, and then design the audit program. How my artificial intelligence, program systems in place affect the transaction link and generating various reports. IA focus on understanding how blockchain concept works and its ability to execute smart contracts. Smart contracts is the buzzword in the many industries now. And just giving you an example through smart contracts in an industry, procurement department, smart contracts in implementation, and my acceptance level of that quality of that chemical is tolerance level is 5, +5, -5, 0.5 जो भी पैरामीटर सेट किया है हमने उसके ऊपर जाएगा, वहां पर लेबोरेटरी में टेस्ट होगा, रिपोर्ट अंडर अपलोड होगा. If it is above beyond that particular material will be rejected. Smart contracts, because all the smart contract, all I know it's very different. It is a lengthy discussion. I can just give you a bullet point that in blockchain, through artificial intelligence, smart contracts all put together, my rejection, material rejection beyond the parameters, beyond the tolerable limit is automatic. It is happening in industries. So my focus should be here. IA should focus on how SA230 would work post blockchain. I told you blockchain के बाद का पूरा मेरा audit professor is going to be changed, because in blockchain data cannot be tampered, cannot be altered, cannot be the even owner cannot destroy the block. So where is the need of my documentation? Where I should keep my permanent file? Why I should keep a box file? Subham, है ना? मैं क्यों रखूंगा मेरी परमानेंट फाइल? मैं क्यों मेरी वर्किंग फाइल रखूंगा जो आपको आपके पार्टनर को दिखाना है ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ फाइनलाइजेशन? जस्ट आई एम गिविंग यू द एग्जांपल, रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल. सो माय SA230 का पूरा SA230 चेंज होने वाला है. I am ready. If I am understanding blockchain concept, then my entire digital transactions and accordingly design my audit procedure. So my focus should be here now, so that in 2025, 2026, when my client is under the blockchain environment, as far as recording of the all digital transactions, my audit process also should be accurate, perfectly designed, perfectly planned in a way so that I can accurately verify the transactions. Otherwise, I'll be lost. I should focus in analyzing the emerging technology, the use of client place with respect to integration. This is very, very important. Whether my all the departments payroll is different on different program, my material management is on different program, my sales module, my the all other outlets are on different program. As I told you on receipts का तो मैंने बताया आपको. All these 3 and 4 important functions of the industries are on different programs and are not being integrated. So at the end of the day, I have to do all this accounting, and there are chance of error. So देख लीजिए आप वहां पर आपके इंडस्ट्रीज में, हाँ इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजी यूज किया है, बट आर दे इंटीग्रेटेड? माय पेरोल इंटीग्रेटेड? नो, पेरोल तो मेरा दूसरे प्रोग्राम में चलता है, फिर हम लोग कर लेते हैं, है ना? दिस इज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग. Now, industries also are into the fast track mode in integration. Many industries have done integration, but still many has to die. And so if I am into that particular industry where still it is not fully integrated, my dear friends, my audit program should be designed accordingly. IA should focus to shift from a very, very important last slide of mine of the day is, my dear friends, days have gone when I used to give the value added observations. It is a measurable value, because industries do not want add value to your audit. Internal audit should not focus from the adding values. Whatever value you are adding should be measurable. IA, with the support from technology, accelerate the in-house digital revolution in our entire the office, and then we can become partner in the growth of the organization. Internal audit has to transform from IA to technology-based enable function to empower the entire organization with all controls in place, operating effectiveness of that control, and to give a confidence to my dear friends, stakeholder. This is what my last line. But for all these things, you just do a 1% extra. I'll just stand up with one small real life example, that 1% extra. Nothing more to be done. कोई घबराने वाली जरूरत नहीं है. कोई इसमें you don't have to do much rocket science. Only thing is, in 8th standard, when we have been told about the science technology, when water is boiled at 98, it's a boiling water. When water is again further boiled 99 degree, it's a boiling water. When water is just being heated 1 more degree, 100, water is converted into a steam, into vapor. That's what you have to do. Because boiling water cannot and do not have a capacity to carry the engine of the train, entire loaded train, but the steam has. And so try to just convert yourself from the boiling water to a steam by just adding 1% extra in whatever efforts, whatever approach, whatever attitude you have today in your approach from tomorrow. And with that particular, the hope which I have in my all professional colleagues across the country, that we are ready. Institute is giving us opportunity. We are ready to serve. We are ready to mitigate the risk of the emerging technologies. And yes, now I will be focused to give not only value addition, but measurable value to the industries as an internal auditor. Thank you so much, IASB. Because yes, at last I have to say thanks to IASB, though being a part of IASB. And thanks to Jalandhar branch. Thanks to Sonia, everybody. Thank you very much, Subham. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, Manish sir, for your wonderful presentation. And
Thank you.
Yes, I would agree with your points. Like technology is not a threat; it's an opportunity. And yes, there are challenges, but it will bring the best in class services in risk advisory domain as well. And I believe due to this changes and upgradation in technology, focus of industries are now changing from manual controls to the system controls and to the automated controls, whether it is financial or operational controls. And yes, it should be a proactive approach to adopt this AI technology and a blockchain, and it should not be a reactive approach. Because as you have mentioned, we know that we have to check the transactions. See, if we have a invoice, we can map it with some of the supportings, but to check whether the price which is coming in that invoice from your sales order, whether it was tempered in the master or not, whether the authorization given to the person who was involved in dealing with those masters have access to it or not, whether it was authorized access or not, whether segregation of duties are in place or not. There are multiple system controls, and yes, our focus is changing from our manual controls to system controls. So yes, it's a very good presentation. And
thank you.
We have Saket Kanodia ji and Sonia Arora ji with us. I would like to welcome both of them in today's session. And before going ahead with our next session on the topic, looking beyond data in internal audit, and I would like to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Rajiv Puri, who is a head of risk and internal audit, Fortis Healthcare. He has experience in governance, risk management, assurance function, developing and implementation of internal audit strategy, roadmap aligned to organization priorities and stakeholder expectation. Over years, he has held leadership responsibility working closely with audit committee, board, management to manage large internal audit mandates and provide strategic direction to senior management to develop an operationalization risk and governance program. Over to you, Rajiv ji.
Thank you, Shubham. Thanks a lot. And I take this opportunity to thank ISAB, Jalandhar branch of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Ms. Sonia Arora ji, and Bakshi ji, and also Mr. Saket. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I have to admit that I am very, very nervous right now. Because after listening to Mr. Manish ji,
sir.
on his presentation. It's a very, very hard act to follow. The kind of platform that you have laid out, I don't know whether I will be able to match to your level. And I have a small secret which I will just let all of you know. While Bakshiji was giving his presentation, I was making some notes, copying from his presentation, because somehow with some kind of a third eye, he has a lot of things which I was about to say, he has already covered in his presentation. So I will try to do justice to the kind of stature that he has actually laid out in for this particular program. I know it's a Saturday evening. We are past 7 p.m. We have Mr. Saketji also to follow. So I will Shubham, I will try to wrap this latest by 7:45 to 7:50, so that we can have some time for question and answer also later on. I when Mr. Nandaji requested me to share certain thoughts, I let me just share my screen. Yeah. So I took the liberty to I took the liberty to actually go slightly beyond what the topic of this particular program was, which was a technology as an enabler, and thought that at which Manishji also referred to, that what technology can do and how you can use the technology. So I have taken that as the theme to share with you my views, my experience, and that also which Manishji requested, that what is the role of IA, what is the expectation of IA in the industry. I will try to answer that also. So I have flipped it to say, okay, if all these technologies are there and they are there to assist me in doing my audit, how I can use it. Because one of the things that mostly confuses when we look at technology is to say the usual question or usual response is what I can do with this technology. And that to me is actually that particular question needs to be flipped to say how what technology can do for me, and that is probably the right approach, because at the end of the day, and there will be multiple platform technologies that will be there. How I can leverage that to my objective, to what I have been expected to do, is more important, and that will help me achieve the mandate and the expectations that the stakeholders have from me. So that is the theme with I just wanted to to start off, and again going back to what Manishji referred to, is change the vision. I think that's a very, very powerful phrase that he used, because and as he laid out the whole history as to how technology has evolved. Earlier we had ERPs, we had standalone applications. Now we are moving to an integrated blockchain platform, integrated technologies, IoT devices talking to each other. This and these evolutions will keep happening. If I am very clear as to what I want to achieve and how I can use the technology, that will actually will help me achieve my objective. Yeah. So as was earlier also discussed as to what technology is doing and how it is what kind of things are happening and what kind of technology adoption which is happening in the specifically in the internal audit, and what it is actually leading to. First and foremost, I think it is now where earlier I had a distributed audit function and an audit plan and audit program. My risk assessment, my ability to comment on the overall risk environment was also scattered. That was also distributed, but with the help of the technology and with the integrated applications and the systems which are there in the organizations today, I can give a more holistic and more integrated assessment of the risk, and which is my core responsibility. Manishji talked about giving value, and value which is not only added value, but also which is measurable value. That's a term that he used. And Manishji, see, I've been making very copious notes of everything that you said, because whatever you said are words of gem. So sorry, I'm using a lot of your terms, but these are very, very powerful terms. So that measurable value is something which technology adoption is actually helping IA to quantify, to give larger assurance on distributed data sets, rather than just doing a sample based or testing and giving assurance on a limited test case. I'm able to give more holistic assessment of control environment, which is converting into a enhanced value to the organization. Other two, free up resources. I can do more with less. Obviously, it's also helping me reduce the cost. But these are kind of ancillary benefits. But the other very important thing which is happening, and this last 18 months or so has also demonstrated that very, very emphatically, is the ability to adapt and my approach, my plan to the audits. I could very, very quickly can refocus on the kind of audits that I need to do, the kind of controls I need to test. And this technology is actually helping me as a big enabler to quickly adapt to the changing environment. Suddenly, when last year, when lockdown happened and all of us started working from home, actually, organizations which had technology deployment in a very matured fashion were able to continue with their audit programs, with their audit plans, and also adapt to the change in the operating environment. If everybody is working from home, my offices, my retail outlets, my regional offices or my factories are not working, or they are not manned, how do I validate certain things which are still being operated upon? So that the technology actually helped me to adapt my approach to the requirements which this last year has actually thrown on us. So technology, as was mentioned earlier, as also by Manishji, is actually we should look it as an enabler. I don't think we should get very worried about the force with which technology is getting adopted in this with the organizations today. Everybody, is going with more and more digital, process streams. We should look at technology as an enabler as to how it can help me achieve my objectives. But before I dwell more into that, I just wanted to go back to certain basics. What does audit mean actually? We all are practicing auditors, and to be very honest with you, even for many years, even I didn't know the meaning of the word audit. And when I figured this out, it was actually it got stuck with me as to what this word audit came from. We are in a online session, so I don't know whether you guys can answer or not in a Q&A, but if you can, and Shubham, if you can, see if somebody can answer. This word actually comes from a Latin word called audere, which actually means to listen. And it has its own origin as to how this word actually came about in the Roman world. But fundamentally, it means to listen. To listen to what? To listen to whatever we are hearing, and we can hear from our auditee, or we can hear from the output that technology is throwing at us. We need to have our ears on the ground. We need to just not look at data as to what exception report or what kind of transactions that data is throwing to us, but what kind of story that data is telling us. I think that what we need to go into, and that is the theme that I have, is to go beyond the data to see as to what kind of picture that data is playing out in front of us, and what is the the actual issue that we need to table out. Because if we are able to identify the issue, we will be able to assist the organization, assist our clients to take proactive corrective actions to mitigate that particular risk. The second, the issue that I see is who are we? As an internal auditors, what is my role? My role is to be a geologist, which is to look in the past, from doing the audit of the past transactions, past data, information, or it is of a astronomer is to look at future. And I think that is a conflict which many times all of us as internal auditors go through. And the answer is not either or. Answer is actually both. That with the help of the past data, which I'm able to dig, which I'm able to mine, and technology is actually helping me mine that data faster, cheaper, better, to give view on future as to what can go wrong, what kind of risk that the organization may have or may be exposed to, and then help management to mitigate those risks before it becomes too big. So how I leverage data, how I leverage technology to identify what can go wrong, what are the potential risks, exposures that the organization may have or is actually carrying basis the transactions. I should be able to help the organization proactively mitigate that. So that is the role that I need to play, and technology can actually help me do that more more efficiently. But probably earlier I didn't have the leverage of technology and the data sets to assist me. Okay. Now, I won't spend too much time here because Mr. Manishji has very elaborately have shared with us in terms of how the whole environment is changing, how blockchain and AI and machine learning is actually changing the whole sphere. And he spoke about all of these things in terms of the whole auditing models which have emerged, the technology-enabled audit platforms we have. Now we are moving more about towards continuous control monitoring. There is a option to have real-time analysis and reporting being done. Now, all of this actually helped me, as I said, to have wider coverage. I am able to move from sample to ample. I am able to do proactive risk assessment, timely assurance. So all of these things are actually, technology is actually helping me, achieve all of these things. Today, Manishji talked about blockchain and AI. We don't realize it, but actually that is currently operating in the sphere that in our operating environment. I will give you an example. All of us use Aadhaar card. All of us, do Aadhaar validation. A lot of companies today, and I'm talking about PSU banks, I'm talking about government companies, including. Today, you can do your credential validation without any document through Aadhaar API, and that is nothing but a blockchain operating. I don't know whether many of you must have seen the news which came a couple of days back, that the telecom companies will be, you don't have to go to any of the telecom operators' offices to obtain a new SIM. You can do it online today, and SIM will be delivered to you at home, and your validation, your credential validation will be done online through, again, that blockchain technology. So those technologies are already in play, and government has very categorically identified 3 stacks. One is the entire identity management. Second is the financial transaction, which is the UPI stack, which is working, and third stack, which is very soon is going to come, which is already there in some bits and pieces, is the health stack. So government is also working on a health ID. So I will have my own unique health ID, and all my health data will be under my own custody. And that's going to, again, will have a very disruptive impact on how I manage my health data. But that's a separate conversation for future. So the point is that these technologies are not somewhere in future. They are already there with me, and we are intuitively using it. How I'm able to leverage those technologies, that data that it throws to me for my audit purposes, something, and is something that we need to, which Manishji spoke about. I will say, okay, once I have that data, how do I make inference from that data, and how do I conclude, and how do I assess that data? Because tomorrow, till yesterday I was looking at maybe 100 transactions, and I will be able to give my view. But today, if technology is throwing million data set to me, how do I make sense of it? And the role of the auditor is also not changing. Now, the validation that I used to do earlier, and which was more historical because there was no technology. That work is being done through AI, through data analytics. So half of my role is being done through technology. So what is my role? And that is also a big question that many of you may be grappling with. And there could be a sense of fear that if data is going to do everything, what will we do as an auditors? My view is that we will have more work to do, and our need, our requirement will, and we will become more critical to the organization, because we know how to assess and understand and review that data to give a cogent story back to the organization as to what is the risk, what you need to do to mitigate the control exposure that this data is telling you. So we should have ability to convert that data into a story, which is a change that we need to have in our approach. We need to have in our the way we work and the way we used to do things in the past. Because in the past, I could just I'm just taking an analogy through an example, and this may sound very fundamental to you, but many times data is just giving me this, that there is a certain discount given in an audit period. Now a smart auditor may be able to sort this out to say, okay, what are the different categories of these discounts. Better auditor will say, okay, I will do a further stacking of that between locations, with the categories, and also I will go into the root cause of, okay, whether they were not approved or they were given outside the eligible category. All of this is fine, but when you go to the audit committee, when you go to the senior management, what is the story that you're telling them as to why all of this is happening? And that is where our role as an auditor is becoming more of a critical thinker, of a critic, of a assessor, or to identify as to what is wrong within, why these things are happening. Going into the root cause is becoming more and more important. Just giving this data, giving cuts and various stacks of as to why, how it has happened, what are the various categories, is no longer sufficient. We need to give a very cogent and a very insightful reason as to why it has happened, and what has caused it. So the root cause analysis, the assessment of the risk is very, very critical for us to deliver to the measurable value that Manishji was talking about, to be the partner that Manishji was talking about. And so related point to this is the approach that I take, where the transaction approach that I used to have earlier was more in the past. I was giving a historical view of things, that in the last quarter, in the last 6 months, in the last year, this is what happened. 60% of the purchase orders were not approved or were not delivered on time. That was all past. Today, because of the information that you are able to generate and you're able to assess in a time efficient manner, you can give better insights of what that particular control issue is telling you. But more importantly, we have to assist the organization to manage the risk for future, and that is where we are, how well we assess the data, how we leverage the technology that is available with us and within the organizations today can help me become, with the foresight to help my management, help my client, help my audit committee to proactively identify what can go wrong, and then partner to develop meaningful solutions to mitigate that particular risk. This is a very interesting example, and many of you may be aware of it, of what data can do to you, and how a data can at times can be misleading. This is a story of World War II, where U.S. Navy planes were getting hit by the opposing armies, including Japan, and they what they did, they hired a bunch of statisticians to help the U.S. Navy to identify as to how they what they need to do, because there was a lot of data they had compiled, and all this red bullets that you're seeing is actually the the guns shots which the planes had suffered during the World War II. So the idea was to re-armor the planes, so that they can become more powerful and stronger. Now, just looking at this photograph, the intuitive answer would be to re-armor all the red dot areas of a plane. That will be a very intuitive answer. But there was one statistician called Abraham Wald. He said that reinforce the area around cockpit and the fuel area. As to why, and his logic was very simple. All of these, you are able to collect this data from the planes which came back to the base. You don't have the data of the planes which never came back, because they were hit on the other areas which are white. So reinforce those areas which are white, because you don't have that data, because those planes never came back. And that is how they were able to solve the problem of reinforcing the planes. But just this example, illustrates as to how data can actually at times be misleading and can take you down a wrong path. So I should be able to very critically analyze as to what a data is telling me, or what data is not telling me. At times data could be misleading. I should not conclude very quickly. I should do a very, very comprehensive assessment and analysis of the data. And as they say, torture data long before it confesses. So, you need to really do very deep analytics that Manish was also referring to. Also, another area which a lot of us are unconsciously, subjected to is confirmation bias. I know that if certain I get certain output, in my mind I have already figured out a reason as to why it has happened. So that is a confirmation bias. I should be very conscious of that, and I should analyze the data from multiple angles to actually assess and see as to is my preconceived notions are validated, or is something else that I need to be wary of. The other thing is to as I said earlier, look beyond data to see as to what kind of things that it is throwing at me. many times it is, you will see that the exceptions that you analyze, the information that the huge data set which the ERP or the technology has thrown at you is hinting at something which is more qualitative, is more of a culture, more of a behavior of certain class of individuals, which needs to be further investigated or further assessed and reviewed. I think that is where our role as critical thinker, as to be the critic of the underlying behavior of the process owner also become very, very important. Just throwing numbers back at the management and the audit committee of the exceptions is not going to help. We should be able to give them the actual root cause. Many times, along with data, going back to the earlier point that I made on what is the meaning of audit, or what that word means is to listen. We don't have our ears on the ground, and that probably is also a kind of a fallout of technology, where I'm able to, do the audit sitting at my desk with my laptop, and Manish ji and Saket ji will confirm that in the past the amount of time that we used to spend on ground with process owners gave us far more insights into the the problems than data can ever give me. Half of the audits was done just having a cup of coffee with the process owner, because or with the other people on the shop floor or in the office, because you could hear and you could imbibe a lot of noise. Somewhere the technology is and last 1.5 years actually been also a challenge, that we are losing that touch at the ground. I think that's a very, very important tool that all of us should leverage very, very emphatically to get to the fundamental problems which data can help me validate, and that's where the technology as enabler can play a very, very important role. I can validate my hypothesis, my which the risk that I am hearing through data very, very quickly, and convert my audit very, very efficiently, and turn that give my output in a very, very quick time. Another fallacy of data is correlation is not a causation. We correlate two data sets to say this has happened because of this, because they both are talking to each other. This is another area which we need to guard against, and I'm just in the interest of time, I will very quickly take you the example. Many of you would have seen this happen in June when the UEFA or the Euro was happening, and you all know what happened because of this, correct? The Coke share price went down by 2 billion. So this is a classic case of correlation leading to causation. Everybody said that just because Ronaldo picked up Coke bottles from the podium, the Coke share price went down by 2 billion. This is a classic case. Actual fact is very different. Now, in summary, this incident happened 2 minutes after the market cap has gone down by 2 billion. That is the difference in timing. So the human tendency is to look at the immediate events and assign that event to a cause, which was never the case. So just to illustrate the example, that we need to be very mindful. When we use technology, it throws data at us. We should really massage that data. We should really torture that data. So before it confesses, the point that I was making earlier, and I should be able to just not very quickly do a pivot in Excel and give my lecture in the audit report and assign certain cause because two data were able to correlate. I should dig deep. I should do my critical thinking to say as to why it has happened, go into a root cause, ascertain as to what really has happened. And these are, few techniques and few pointers that I have used, and I'm just sharing with you with my limited knowledge and experience that I have. Understanding business context, no matter what technology we are using, how sophisticated the business, the technology used by the business or the organization, understanding the business concept is at a very fundamental level always help. Keep asking the question why is very, very important. I spoke about this earlier. I see this a desktop audit approach followed by many youngsters today. Maybe you can call me old school, but I believe in going around the location, having physical round of the offices of your client locations to see what actually is happening. Talking to people, understanding what's happening on the ground. Keep validating, discussing, reanalyzing all the data that is being given to you. Also, when the other risk that we run as an auditor when we are dealing with large amount of data sets is to get lost in that data and go into a rabbit hole and somewhere lose the context of the objective that we have as to why I'm doing this audit. What is the risk that I'm assessing? So I should be able to toggle between going deep into a data and then zoom out to take a 10,000, 20,000 feet view as to what is the purpose of the audit, what is the risk I'm assessing. I think that will help me set the context and also validate the output that particular data is throwing at me. Asking why, keep asking why as to why this exception has happened, why this control has failed, what is going wrong, what kind of change is required, whether it's issue of a certain control not configured in the application or in system correctly, or it is the behavior of people circumventing that control through a manual process, or there is a deliberate attempt or a deliberate action of certain people to override those controls. I think that assessment, that evaluation, that thinking is very, very important. In the end, I will just say that as Manish mentioned, it's only an enabler. It is means to an end, not an end itself. Technology can be very overwhelming. But if I know my objective, if I know what is the purpose with which I am doing the audit, technology can be a big enabler and can help me do my audits cheaper, faster, better, and be more insightful and give more wider coverage as well as a deeper insight to the organization to manage their risk effectively. Thanks, Shubham. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them, or if they need to be taken later.
Thank you so much, sir, for your amazing presentation. Like you were saying earlier that you are noting some of the things of Manish sir. I have noted some of the things which are really very good. Like you have used a term like integrated risk approach, wherein you were highlighting like there are two approaches of risk, like to identify the process level risk and to identify the enterprise level risk. And also you have touched upon the big data, where we all know that how big data is used on a daily basis, whether the data is structured or the unstructured data, but and how systems are improving on a periodic basis to enhance customer experience and business resilience. And yes, like you have mentioned, the expectation of the management is to understand the data, have data analytics techniques, and to suggest mitigating controls for the identified and unidentified risks that the organization is facing, and also to validate those identified risks from the historic data. So yes, it was a really good presentation, and I would thank you for this presentation. So
Thank
without
you.
taking your much time, like we will go ahead with our last session on the topic internal audit on pharmaceuticals along with data analytics. And I would like to introduce our speaker, CA Saket Kanodia ji, Deputy General Manager, Intes Pharmaceuticals Limited. So Saket is a chartered accountant, certified internal auditor, and having DISA certification. He has over 15 years of experience in the field of internal audit, standard operating processes, and risk management. He is also responsible for the operationally managing the internal audit calendar of the company, IFC, and SOP framework. Earlier, he was associated with a Big Four consulting firm where he is managed and consulted multiple clients in the operational aspect. Thank you, over to you, Saket.
Thanks, Shubham, for the introduction. I go down to the IASB Jalandhar branch for giving me this opportunity, and it has been a wonderful Saturday evening, and was really a pleasure to listen to Mr. Bakshi, Mr. Puri. Really insightful thoughts. Before I begin, I must reflect some of the very nice thoughts that Mr. Puri just shared. The example of the plane and the planes and the bullets was very insightful. I really enjoyed hearing that. With that, I begin my presentation. Yes, so it is IPL time, and I have been asked to come into the death overs. So of course I understand that the scoring rate is already set at a very high pace, and I'm feeling like the 2 down or the 3 down batsman entering into the 12th or the 13th over of the IPL, and with a very high level of expectations, which have been set by both the speakers prior to me. So today I would want to share my limited experience, my experience with pharmaceuticals, and my very limited experience with data analytics. The idea is that before I mean, as a learner, I would call myself as a passionate learner. When I learned I'm still learning the field of internal audit and the profession of pharmaceuticals and data analytics. There are some things which I have learned out of experience, and I've tried to put all of those things or a lot of those things in a very short half an hour, 40 minutes presentation. And I hope this will be of some value to you. So we'll be talking about two things, about pharma markets, and about data analytics. I understand I'm talking to the fraternity of internal auditors. So I would not go into the basics of internal audit, but I'll jump straight to the point that why data analytics is very important. I'll be focusing on pharma industry because I belong to pharma. If you're not from pharma, which I understand many of you would not be, I'm sure you would be able to reflect my thoughts into your industry and have a relative perspective that I would want to give here. So let's begin. I would want to start with the section 1, that is the pharma markets and the importance of data in the pharma markets. So the Indian pharmaceutical companies have grown tremendously over the past few years. The large domestic pharma companies have continued to grow, and there has been a lot of massive investments by both Indian as well as MNC companies. Last 2 years have been very, very torrid for the country, but one sector which has gone, I would say one sector which has bore the brunt and not only sustained but so as to say flourished out of this has been the pharma sector. Currently, with the Make in India dream of the country's top bosses, the self-reliance displayed by the production of 70% of the bulk drugs and almost the entire requirement of the formulations within the country. So we are almost coming to a point that we are becoming self-sufficient as well as pharma is concerned. We have about 3,000 pharma companies and more than 10,000 manufacturing facilities. That's an interesting fact, really. And domestic pharma market turnover has reached about 20 billion USD in 2019, and it has grown tremendously in the last 2 years. Equal to this, about 20 billion USD has been the Indian pharmaceutical exports in the same year. So let's approach the pharmaceutical industry, and we'll have to understand the therapy or the pharmacotherapy to understand the market in a better way. See, the pharma products are bifurcated into more than 20 therapies, or so as to say segments. The market leader is oncology, because in oncology, I must just to simplify, it refers to the anti-cancer drugs, which is given for cancer treatments. As you can see, these are the market leaders as far as pharma therapies are concerned. They are followed by anti-diabetic, respiratory, autoimmune, and so on and so forth. The data is there. I've kept my presentation data heavy, but I'll focus only on the main points in the interest of time and in the interest to keep your attention on the presentation. It's important to understand that the market is bifurcated into two segments. One is acute and one is chronic. And I'll explain why it helps the internal auditors and why it helps from a data analytics perspective. Acute diseases are those diseases which occur suddenly and last for a few days, like an accident or like a sudden pain which has come to the patient and will go away after taking some medicines. Acute diseases can occur throughout all body systems, like an asthma attack, I said. One of the very, very common example of an acute disease is COVID-19. COVID-19 is an acute disease. While on the other side, chronic diseases, these last over a period of time, sometimes even a lifetime, right? These diseases last for more than 3 years. Initially, the symptoms are sober, but then they grow over a period of time. The risk factors involved in such diseases may be age, gender, or unhealthy lifestyle. Some of the examples are hepatitis C, HIV, arthritis, diabetes. These are chronic diseases. So what is the data tip here? If the pharma company has more products which are in the acute size or more products which are in the chronic vertical, there will be a data pattern which the internal auditor should be very, very careful about. When the pharma products are of catering to an acute disease, the sales pattern will be choppy, volatile, and high sensitive. So just to give the classic example of COVID. So the first wave and the second wave, you would see the COVID medicines were absolutely stock out, and that's the big story everyone knows about. But after these waves have gone down, again the demand for these medicines have also gone down. So they are very, very sensitive. It's very important that our industry, our clients have a very, very thorough planning with respect to the supply and the manufacturing of these products, because stockouts or either stockouts or excess stock can be a definite possibility with respect to acute diseases products. While there are more number and volume of the sales in acute, and the market share for this is about 65%. On the other side, the products that cater to chronic diseases are generally stable. They have low but sustained growth. So it is generally said that they grow with the growth rate of the population. The market share is lesser number of products and lesser volume. So from a data analytics point of view, this, in the pharmaceutical industry, it's important to understand what the company or the client is selling and what are the top products. Let's understand the pharma markets, and so as to say, understand the tiny nature, or rather the relatively small size of the Indian pharmaceutical companies, which are giants in our company, or giants in our country rather. So the global pharmaceutical revenues are about 1,250 billion USD, right? The major companies I have presented. Out of this, the global generic pharma market, which is a subset of the global pharmaceutical company, have a turnover of about 220 billion USD. And Indian pharma market plus India exports is about 40 billion USD. So our big companies, our big giants have a tremendous growth opportunity. While this is important to clarify that the sky is big, and there is a big room for growth in the Indian pharmaceutical company and in the Indian market still. So I would want to clarify the concept of the Indian generic companies. A generic medicine is such where the patent production has expired and which may be produced by manufacturers other than the original innovator product, which is the patent holder. Simply said, when out of the first research and development, a company has a patent of a particular product, it has a patent for typically 10, 15, 20 years. Once that patent expires, the other companies are free to produce and market those products. I would want to clarify that most of the Indian companies which you saw in the previous slide are generic pharma companies. So that means what they are making is a non-innovator product, can be called as a replica product, because those are old products which are there in the pharmaceutical scene for more than 20 years now. Why these companies are growing? Because of the simple reason that they offer a cost advantage. I'll come that whether it's a boon or a curse, I'll come to that later. And that's the crux of the data analytics here, that the Indian generic manufacturers play a very critical role in bringing very affordable drugs to most of the markets, including US consumers. The US FDA have approved in 1 year, 2018, a mammoth 750 generic drugs approval, which is almost 50% of the total approvals. So that just gives you an indication of how urgently and how actively our Indian companies are going to the US or the Europe markets for registering their products, their new products, and exploring the market overseas. This is a very interesting fact. See, the reason why the branded or the innovator products are not selling as compared to the generic products is depicted in the graph. If you see, the prescription price index has gone in the 8 or 9 years for branded products, innovator products, it has gone up, but for generic products it has gone down. So what happens is that the consumers of Europe and of US are very happy now to buy generic products. The largest provider of generic medicines globally is India. That's where you see the race to capture the markets overseas, because there are more and more consumers who are buying our products, and of course, subject to FDA approvals. And I've tried to explain why there is a whole big rat race to approach the big markets globally. But here comes the word of caution. What happens? The graphs or the records show that after the initial 4 or 5 years, there is a drastic drop in the price of generic drugs. The reason is simple. There are more number of generic players which enter the market at that time, because there is it's nobody's patent. It's an open market. Everybody can file their ANDAs, and everybody can register their products. And then it's a big showdown, and then it's completely a buyer's market, and there the prices have a great decline. Of course, the consumer is the king. The consumer can get the products in a very less price, but then it's a big struggle for the pharma companies who is selling these products. See, look at the graph that I have reproduced. The first graph pertains to cetirizine generic price. Cetirizine is a very common medicine that most of us would be aware of. It is used for treatment of throat-related allergies or illness. The price, you can see, has dropped at 80% or 90% just about few months. Imagine what pressure would come to the cost of goods sold, or the supply chain prices, or the freight costs, or whatever. So it's a big pressure that the companies are forced to look at the cost structures and to look at data components, COGS components, and to see whether they are really viable to sustain in the market or not. Interestingly, after having this big drop, there is always a steady line in these generic prices, that after that point of time, the competition has cut each other so much, and they are barely at a 10 or 15 or a 20 or a 30%, that they can't do any more cuts. So then there's a steady graph. But even then, the competition is still there, right? So this is the pharmaceutical market. This is the pharmaceutical market which is being played out in most of the countries, and of course it is healthy if it is for the benefit of the consumers. In the second graph, I have reproduced a market price of omeprazole. This is another product which is a gastro product, is for gastro treatment. If you can see, there are two lines. There is the upper line is the drug tariff, which is the price which is approved for the particular country, and the lower line is where the average price in which the manufacturers are selling. So you can see that the manufacturers tend to sell at a lower price than the drug tariff, and sometimes that adds to the volatility, that adds to the sensitivity, and there is a carnage in the market. It's important that the company's finance and the company's supply chain matches up to it and ensures that the profitability remains there, right? So the third, I mentioned the float between drug tariff and market price. I mentioned there is a tremendous pressure on the cost drivers and COGS. There is a continuous need to review the costs. Most of these manufacturers sell their products in there are multiple markets wherein these products are being sold. So, and in some markets there are stockouts. In some markets there is idle inventory. It's always a pressure on the supply chain to ensure that the right amount of inventory reaches the right markets. The supply chain costs, owing to the fuel prices, is ever increasing. So all of this points to the simple direction that there is increased need for advanced data analytics to ensure that we keep ahead of our competition. One of the other big challenge for a pharmaceutical company is the gross to net adjustment. This is typically the difference between the primary sales price, that is the first sale, which is made by the subsidiary company to the first buyer, and the secondary sales price, which is the second sales, which is referred to. This difference is called the gross to net. It's a major complexity in the business. In many cases, the discount or the rebate passed through this process is about 70 to 80% of the gross sales. There are enormous volumes of transactions to this effect with different permutations and combinations. Therefore, the grip that the internal auditor ought to have on the data has to be extremely firm. There are various factors which affect the G2N differentiation by brands. It can be a pharmacy purchase decision, a list price margin, a competitive intensity, or a strategic objective. So what is big data? A big data is typically characterized as 3 V's: large volume of data, wide variety of data types frequently stored in big data systems, and the velocity of how much data is generated, collected, and processed. If you can see the graph here, on the patient side, there is a data source from many sources. From the drug side, there is a data source from there is data collected from many sources. From the business side, of course, there is a data collection from possible data collection from many sources. And from the innovation side, there is data collection from many sources. So there is definitely a plethora of information. There is an overload of information. It comes from all directions. And one has to understand what has to be captured, in what way, and what can be left. That is important to understand and to harness the power of big data. So in the last 10-15 minutes, I have probably been able to explain you the overall concept of a pharmaceutical industry, make you understand that after all, the market is not so easy, and why there is a very big need of having data analytics, especially to our fraternity, because ultimately we are the management audit and we have to understand and report the absolute precise root cause for our problems. When we understand these problems or these situations, we'll be able to, because the management understands these situations much better than us. The more we are connected to the market, the more we are understanding our industry better, we'll be able to have a direct link to the management and our conversation will go seamlessly. I'll come to the second and the last topic for me, which is data analytics. And here, what I'll try to do is simplify what actually is needed to be done for data analytics. This is more of a general, I've tried to keep this more of a very general data analytics information. So my friends and colleagues who are from non-pharma industry can understand this also. So from the traditional approach to analytics, which is like all of us or most of us would be doing our analysis in Excel, to a matured analytics model, there is a very important time to move, and the time is now. From earlier days, wherein there was a transaction review or a checklist based review, audits would have limited capabilities, and Excel analytics, which are simple and relatively successful because of their low cost, but their success is often based on a particular individual's component, and it's probably not on a repeatable process. Matured analytics is wherein an automated rules run repeatedly with a similar application and scope. It is they have well developed and practiced appropriate governance, complex known abnormalities routinely tagged for model input. These are some of the technicalities for a matured analytics model. Yes, I know I am speaking to my fellow members, friends and colleagues from who are chartered accountants who are or internal auditors. But now time has come that we have to understand what is a table and how a data actually is in the background of our ERPs. For the example, I have taken an SAP ERP, but you can of course understand what I'm trying to refer. My friends, I want you to understand there is a difference between a transaction code, report, and a data structure. Where we are executing a particular transaction code or T code, or when we are seeing a report in our ERP, if it can be SAP or it can be Oracle or even Tally, we have to understand that data is actually stored in the database, which is referred as table. To understand and to excel in data analytics, we have to have at least a working knowledge of what is a table. For example, talking about SAP, tables are created, displayed, and maintained as the building blocks of the SAP environment. Here I have tried to explain what I am talking about in the material management or the module table. I have tried to keep a very, although it looks complex, but believe me, it's the most simple depiction that I could have got. We'll have to familiar ourselves at least with the concept that there are tables existing. And in SAP, at least as an example, in SAP, these tables are known by their short forms, which can be LFA1, when this is an SAP table, which refers as a vendor master table. So in an LFA1 table, you will get details which are in fields, rows, columns, which will have the vendor master. KNA1 will be customer master. EKKO, which has company code information, T001, which has company information, and RBKB and RSEG are invoice verification tables. If you can see the arrows which are going from one table to other, they work extremely similar to the VLOOKUP formula of Excel, that they try to reference a index column or an index row from in one table to another table and try to get other columns or other fields basis the index column. I'm sure most of you would be familiar with the concept of VLOOKUP, and it's the same thing, but we have to understand that the same thing happens in all our ERPs. I have given an example of SAP table, that is module, for you to understand. We have to understand that there is something called SQL, which is structured query language. It is the most common language for extracting and organizing a data that is stored in a relational database. A database is a table, of course, I mentioned before, and an SQL, wherein is a language which can enable the user to communicate, talk, or alter, delete, edit information which is stored in two or more tables. It can execute the queries, it can retrieve data from the database, insert records, update records, delete records, create new databases, create stored procedures, and set permissions. I know as internal auditors, we are most concerned with top two, which is execute queries against a database and retrieve data from the database. So when you are talking to your clients or in your company, you have to be very specific what SQL is being run. I know in most cases there will be someone called an AWAPer, some technical person who will be running this. But as a functional expert, if the internal auditor understands what is happening, I tell you, he will be able to contribute far better into the project, because he will try to understand what that person is doing in the tables, what he's trying to do from the SQL, because there are multiple number of tables, multiple number of queries that he has to write. What the ABAPer will do is something which I've tried to depict here. See, there are three tables here. One is the MARA, MARC, MARD. What he will try to do is connect these three tables through a relational database, through an SQL. He'll try to find an index field, that is MATNR, which will be common in all these three tables, and then these three tables will be able to sort of linked and they will be called as a relational database, and all the other fields in each of the tables can speak to each other. So whether it's a data analytics that we want to run, that we want to populate a dashboard, wherever there has been more than 5 days of delay in a GRN, wherever there has been more than 2 POs wherein there has been a condition which has been violated or which you want to see, then this kind of a query language, these kinds of things are actually happening in the technical details. I wanted to take 5 minutes of yours to explain you what actually happens in the data analytics, because it will make you a better internal auditor ultimately. So very in a very summarized way, I will try to narrate a step-by-step analytics implementation plan. The message here that I would want to give is that we have to go well planned. It is of course into 3 stages, that is planning, development, and sustenance. I want to take 5 minutes here because this is probably the most important slide of my presentation. When you or your client is embarking on a journey of data analytics, it is very important that you have a written commitment from the senior management. Because it will entail cost, time of the resources. You'll have to make them explain that what is the vision, what are the kinds of queries that you would want to run on the database. You would have to explain that who will be the technical person who will be doing it, how much of cost it will be involved, that clarity, because it's a long-term project. It will not happen in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Sometimes it goes up to 6 months, 8 months, 9 months also. And the sustenance of it is into years. So take their buy-in, take the principal approval from the senior management before you embark on a journey. Constitute a cross-functional team. It's not the audit's business at all. It has to be backed up by the IT. It has to be backed up by the business team with defined roles and responsibilities. This is all with experience that I'm talking. Start small. Select only 1 or 2 processes like P2P or inventory and develop only 10 to 15 critical data scripts and get a dashboarding approved. So whatever dashboard that you want to see, it can be a Power BI, it can be something called a Tableau. Get that approval from the management that ultimately you will see something like this on your screens. Select the technology and onboard the functional expert to implement the tool and to build the technical query into the tool. I have explained you what happens in the background. You will be able to understand what they'll be doing with the data and what ultimately they want. Run the scripts, validate the exceptions. It's very, very important that the exceptions that you will get as the first result or the first run would be with a lot of, so as to say, false positives or false negatives, because there will be a lot of exceptions which ideally, when you go down, when you drill, you will not find them as a real positive case, or you will not find as a real negative case. So you'll have to validate the exception. You'll have to then resolve these challenges with IT infrastructure, data quality, output quality, and tool capability. This may take time. So be patient at this stage, because this will be the most irritable stage in the journey of implementing a data analytics. Develop platform for full-fledged data analytics, and then by extending this to other processes as well. Once streamlined, schedule the exception output at defined periodicity along with mapping person responsible. Identify the scripts which can be handed over to the business owners for continuous monitoring. It's a concept like build, operate, and then transfer. So if you have gotten a dashboard with 15, 16 data analytics running on a daily basis, and this pertains to inventory management, don't own this. Give it to the person who is responsible for managing the inventory. Give the logistics dashboard to the person who is responsible to manage logistics. He'll get value out of it, and the whole idea of internal audit will also be simplified in the organization. So transfer the dashboards when they are matured. Transfer these dashboards to the business when you are sure that they are good and the information that you are seeing on those dashboards are reliable. Last stage will be that develop an adequate capable team or hire consultant for the sustenance of the project. So this is typically the whole journey, may take minimum 6 months, 1 year. depending on the urgency, depending on the size and the complexity of the business that you are doing. Sample analytics dashboard will look something like this. This is the inventory analysis dashboard. Of course, it can be customized basis your functional consultant, basis your or the IT person's capability. So this will look like this. This will have all sorts of whatever you choose to be there on the screen. It will show, and definitely once the users are once the users are able to see the errors or the outliers on a real-time basis, then it from a detective, sometimes it even works as a preventive measure also. Some sample DA scripts I've tried to just enumerate. Some important ones, like for procure to pay, duplicate payment to a vendor, or different vendors having same bank account, or duplicate invoice booking, or invoice booked for quantity more than the GRN quantity, different vendors having same bank account. This is the sample DA scripts for accounts finance, for sales process, for payroll, for inventory. Of course, the list can be 100, 200, 300, 400, but it's highly advised that go with a focused thought process. Don't go overboard with too many number of scripts, and look at something around 50, 100 in the first year, and try to get the best results out of these. So there we are. The data analytics in internal audit takes big data, does the analytics, and then the clear picture emerges, which helps in the decision making. There are very, very clear benefits from it. I've tried to enumerate, not take too much time because we have already sort of crossed, but I'm sure you get the picture here. Lastly, what I would want to say is data is an enabler. Don't lose logic while interpreting the same, because ultimately data analytics is something which a machine will do or a computer will do. The result that it will throw out, please use that judiciously to comment on anything, right? You should have the basic numbers of the company. You should be aware of the basic numbers so that you don't end up coming into a conclusion which would be absolutely baseless. So be logical while interpreting the results from the data analytics journey. That's it. I've tried to keep this, as I said, I've tried to keep this very, very quick. We complete in the scheduled time now. And I hope, as I said, I hope you had value from the discussion.
Thank you, Saketji, for your informative presentation. When you have shared the presentation and you have shown us all the tables related data from SAP, like I was able to, integrate all the presentations which are given by all the panelists. Like Manish sir has told about who has access to those tables, are they authorized persons or not, whether the exceptional reports are reviewed by anyone or not. So and like Rajiv sir, to have a data analytics technique to dig out from the tables and to make a valuable item out of it. And when you have shared, like I was remembering a ICAI table wherein we used to do the invoice based verification check using relational database and many more, and how negative testing and penetration testing is performed when we used to test the SAP automated environment. And also how at the last when you have shown what kind of controls we have to build in the SAP environment. So yes, it was really a very good presentation from your side, and thank you for this informative one. I would like to invite Miss. Just give me. I would like to, before turning towards our Q&A session, I would like to invite CA Sonia Arora ji, Chairman of Jalandhar branch of NIRC of ICAI, to share her views. Over to you, Sonia ji.
Thank you, Shubhamji. Firstly, I extend my gratitude to Internal Audit Standard Board of ICAI for giving the Jalandhar branch the opportunity to be a part of this wonderful program. My special regards to the speaker, or must say stars from the galaxy of intellectual, CA Manish Bakshi sir, Rajiv Puri and Saket Kanodia. All are the, I must say, they are one above the another. Each and every deliberation, I even can't assess which one is the best. I think you all have put your excellent. Today the webinar, I must say, is highly embellished with the presence of scholarly intellectuals and unimpeachable experts. So we are fortunate that we got the opportunity to interact with you and hear your words of wisdom. Yeah, new ABC by Bakshi sir, the way of presentation through in a lucid way. Rajiv Puri sir have cleared all the doubts, and last but not the least, Saket sir, the awesome one. And sir, I have heard that it's always fruitful to be in the company of intellectuals. But when we are going to have a galaxy of them together, I must say the gains from the today webinar are marvelous. We are really fortunate that we got the opportunity to hear words from you. And Shubhamji, you have really moderated the session very well. And last but not the least, the participant who are turning in last number just because of the speaker. So, sir, seriously salute to you all. And in Jalandhar, in my tenure, I really want you for a physical seminar too, so that everyone in the Jalandhar branch also physically they get here, enlighten us on these really good topics from you all.
Thank you, Sonia ji, for your wonderful speech. We'll go ahead and take some time for our questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. So I'll take up the questions. So our first question is from Balaji, who is asking if the Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is allowed in India. Are the institute working on guidance note and accounting and auditing standards? Over to you, Manish sir.
Bitcoin. Question is, just can you repeat?
So Balaji is asking if the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is allowed in India. Are the institute working on guidance note and accounting and auditing standards?
As of now, the answer is no. Everybody knows that cryptocurrency, we can trade in India, trade, and income from that is to be disclosed in the and offered for the taxation. But RBI has not still given permission, and it's not an official tendered currency in India. And so I think institute has not taken a proactive step in coming out with guidance note of accounting and then taxation also in time to come. But as of now, no. Rajiv ji or anybody has any update on this plan can update my views also.
No, sir, you are absolutely right. I think it is still in an evolving state, and whether it while locally it is being called cryptocurrency, but I don't think it can be a currency. It can be only any other asset class.
Asset class.
It can't be a currency. But I think we'll wait for RBI to set the standard and the framework, basis which the whole ecosystem will have to adapt.
Yes, correct.
So our next question is from Harpreet Singh, who is asking machine-based decisions and actions can be efficiently audited by a machine-based audit program. So internal auditors will have to use AI-based technology audit programs and audit tools for efficient and effective audit results. Do you agree?
Because of want of time, I did not took up this one of the very important concept and raise the question for the participant. And that question I always ask to all the participants. What is your view? Can AI replace IA? Artificial intelligence internal audit को replace कर सकता है और इन आने वाले दिन में करेगा? My answer is absolutely no. Because nobody can ultimately, replace the brain, human mind. I told Harpreet ji in my presentation also that in any of the programming or the system, again a human mind is getting involved. मैंने TCS का एग्जांपल भी दिया. TCS का प्रैक्टिकल लाइव एग्जांपल क्या है? उनके कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट में, वो प्रोजेक्ट तो उनका है, कोई बिल्डिंग का प्रोजेक्ट है नहीं, कोई फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनी बनाने का प्रोजेक्ट तो है नहीं, उनका प्रोजेक्ट तो प्रोग्रामिंग का है. इन एवरी प्रोजेक्ट, since number of years, I know 10 years, maybe more than that, one chartered accountant is there because chartered accountant is required. And those computer engineers, BE computer, are also using their brain and making the program. Now, the point is, those programs are also vulnerable to any bugs, also vulnerable to any of the threats of the security. And so the internal auditors and role and responsibility is to check the controls, ensure the processing of the transaction which are happening through that machine which is programmed, and where that machine is capable to take the decision, which otherwise till today was left to human mind. But still that machine, it is a machine. Machine can be hacked, can have a bug. And so your entire inventory quantity of that closing stock, because of one small bug, those examples, many of us, we have as an internal auditor and statutory auditor, that when at the year end, when you take out the, the statement of the closing stock of finished good, some shocking, the quantity is coming out. And then when the computer experts and the SAP expert went into detail and went to the trail of this particular, there was a bug in between some programming. And so my entire quantity on the year at the year end was different than what actually physical verified by the auditor team and the management. The meaning thereby, my point I would like to impress upon you and convince to you is that internal auditor through that machine has to develop the auditing tools, techniques, and methodology by which those machine programming also has to be tested. That is what the role and responsibility of internal auditor, rather than to go for the manual, checking the manual controls and manual process. That is what my answer.
So
Rajiv ji or Saket ji can add, then only we can have a good deliberation, because both experts are there, so they can also add, supplement, and there may be a difference of opinions and views.
Manish ji, I agree with you. Machine is after all a machine, and it has to be supervised by a human being.
Yes.
There is I would say there is 30 to 40% of the jobs at a lower level which can be done by a machine. But the interpretation of the results, the deliberation with the management has to be done by the human, because there is a reason for every exception that the management tells that this is because of X reason, Y reason, and very, very logical reasons the management gives. So the machine can't be left to its own. That's what my thought is.
Correct.
And I think the example that Manish ji you gave a couple of times of the TCS, where the CA is an integral part of the team. I think as internal auditors, we also have a responsibility and a role to play in when the whole application and the technology design is happening.
Yes. Very right.
To see, how the control and how the system flow is getting, designed in this in the application, and whether it adheres to the controls environment. Is it kind of exposing the organization to any unwarranted risk? That a overall design assurance of an application will be the more critical part for the internal auditors in future before they start looking the output, because output is going to be how the whole system is designed.
Correct.
So we will play far more active role in the system design phase. And a lot of, in fact, why in future, even today, a lot of companies are actually going for a pre-implementation audit of any new application before it gets launched or get implemented in the system, in the organization, so that audit can confirm or can validate that all the processes and the controls have been designed in the manner in which they are supposed to be executed, and it doesn't expose the organization to any kind of unwarranted risk. I think your point that you have example that you have reinforced to the audience, I think it's very, very important and very good.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for the amazing deliberation. So our next question is from Madan. How we can segregate poor performing brands in pharma and take decision of removing from the sales list with the help of AI and data analytics. Over to you, Saket sir, other panelists.
This is a very, very regular question which we deal with day in, day out. I'll tell you how most of the companies that I've seen do it. There is a direct, I would say, gross margin 1 and gross margin 2. So sales minus the cost, the basic cost is GM1, that is the gross margin 1. There is a percentage that we have kept, maybe 30%, 40%, that at least has to be a GM1 of that much. Or then after the other costs, then there has to be at least a 10% or a 5%. For example, it has to be a GM2. So every now and then, on a monthly basis, there is a list of products which do not qualify to the specified GM1, GM2, and immediately the management takes action.
So any other panelists, if you have some of your views?
No, it is from the domain expert, so we can't add anything. At least I can't add anything. Perfectly all right.
So I would request, the next question is from Hari Kishan. Whether SQL is required to collect data for data analytics, or we have to gather data from the report available in the software.
Rajiv ji and
so I will request Saket ji also to add to see, SQL is another tool or technique that is available for us to convert a unstructured or even a structured data set into the format and into the data set which I would, as an auditor, would like to use and give me a very specific output based on the specific queries I want to run, or the specific tests that I want to run. And SQL is one of such techniques that I can use. Getting even if I'm using the output generated by any application or any ERP, I can overlay that SQL programming or SQL queries to further kind of structure and massage the data to my specific needs and do very specific test procedures. Saket ji, you can just add to this.
Absolutely, Rajiv ji, well said. To my limited understanding, most of the times backend mein SQL hi chal raha hota hai. I mean, right? To understand, okay, this is more of a person who is technically doing it. Typically, an IT guy is running these things. But for a functional person, if we sit with him and ask him, what are you actually doing, and what is the thought process? See, I'll try to give my experience again. There is lot of times that in the companies, in many of our clients, the standard tables are not being referred to. There is always because of the complexity of at the time of SAP implementation or Oracle implementation, there is always a very customized table set wherein the actual data resides. So if we understand the SQL, and if we sit with the functional consultant at that time, we will reduce the possibility of false positives and false negatives.
Sir, your views.
So my question to Saket ji, that as an internal auditor, do I have to have at least yearly review of those tables and the SQL language defined at the beginning? It is advisable.
Always advisable. I would say recommendable, but
Yes.
It's not very practical to do all of that every year. But at least once in 3 years, we must do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think it looks like we have a few questions left. So the next question is, auditor's role in data analytics with a client. Is it descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, or prescriptive?
I'll take that. It's all of them, all of the above.
All of them, yes.
Yeah, all
absolutely.
of the above. Try to be detective at the first. Try to be descriptive at the first. Diagnostic and predictive can come later if you are ambitious, right? But at least be detective at the first go.
Absolutely, depending upon the objective.
Correct.
For which you are analyzing data. These are all different types of data analytics, and then that's what I wanted to make the participant who has raised the question understand. These are all different types, and it's not like which is best and which is to be used whenever. It is all depends upon the objective. That's what my answer to the querist. Rajiv ji.
Absolutely, sir. I completely agree with you. These are various auditing techniques that I can apply
Yes.
to meet the underlying audit objective and the risk that I want to assess.
Correct.
So before I end this webinar, first and foremost, I would like to express my appreciation to the speakers and the panelists for their valuable contribution. And my deepest gratitude goes to all the attendees and who helped us to make this is a successful event. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today. And if someone in the panelists have something to say, you can share your valuable feedback. And
we would like to thank all the, I am told, 1,300 participants and those who have spared their time on the Saturday evening. That itself shows your interest in the subject, your readiness to understand this technology. And so we are very sure that the future of the internal audit in terms of the new emerging technology is also going to be very bright. That is what my, the satisfaction note for all the participants.
No, absolutely, I echo your point of view, Manishi. I think first of all, thanks ISAP and for giving this opportunity. And I personally thoroughly enjoyed and learned listening to you, Manishi, and Saket ji. It's been very enriching, and I'm sure it was equally enriching for the 1,300 odd participants who were there on this webinar.
Lastly, I would want to again thank the IASB Jalandhar branch of ICAI for giving me the opportunity to speak. And it was a great evening, and I'm sure I learned a lot from the other panelists. I'm sure the other participants would have got some learnings and would have enjoyed their Saturday evening also.
Yes, absolutely.
So if I look at the Q&A report, everyone is appreciating, and I would really thank all the panelists to make this count. And thank you.
Thank you, Subham. Thanks to you also for wonderful moderating and very smiling face, Subham. Keep it up. All the best.
Thank you, Subham. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aarti madam. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, all IASB team. Thank you very much for working overtime, even after office hours, to make this the discussion live and value added to everyone. Thank you so much, IASB team.
Thank you.